What if I told you I saved 9 hours in Disney World lines in one day? Sounds impossible, right? But I did it. And I'm gonna show you all of the tips that got me there and how you can make them work for your trip. In this video, I'm gonna break down how I used Lightning Lane to cut hours of waiting and have the ultimate Disney day, riding every single ride across all 4 parks except for one ride. Now, that's kind of a lofty ambition and one that I don't recommend doing because it's painful for your leg. But you can use any of my tips that got me to ride almost 50 rides in one day to help have an amazing day, even if you're just doing one park. And stick around, because I'll also let you in on the one ride where I wasted my Lightning Lane and how you can avoid making the same mistake. But first, what is Lightning Lane? Lightning lanes are separate queue lines that let you skip the standby line for many attractions around Disney World. Often, this can help you skip lines that are long, even an hour plus, in favor of lines that are under 10 minutes. There are 3 ways to access Lightning lanes, all of them paid. Lightning Lane Multipass is a single purchase pass that lets you skip the lines at most rides around Disney World. There are rides in every park that accept Lightning Lane Multipass, and you buy it for the first park you're going to use it in for the day. Then you can park hop if you'd like. With Lightning Lane Multipass, you can hold timed reservations for up to 3 attractions at a time. Once you've scanned in to one of those Lightning lanes, you can go ahead and book another, always keeping up to 3. These are offered for a date-based and park-based fee, with Animal Kingdom being the least expensive and Magic Kingdom being the most. Lightning Lane Single Pass is a one-ride a la carte selection that you can buy with or without buying Multipass. For that, you're going to be able to ride rides that are not included in Multipass. These are the most popular rides in Disney World, like Rise of the Resistance, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, or Flight of Passage. This offering is offered for a date-based and ride-based fee. Then there is the newest option, Lightning Lane Premier Pass, which is a little bit more luxury. Lightning Lane Premier Pass is a single purchase pass that is very expensive and gives you access to all Lightning Lane Multipass and Lightning Lane Single Pass eligible attractions in one park. Now, the thing that makes this so much better is that with Lightning Lane Premier Pass, you do not have to make the timed reservations. You can simply walk up to any ride that you want that has a Lightning Lane and scan in. You get access to each ride just one time with Lightning Lane Premier Pass, and you cannot buy Premier Pass for more than one park. And it is expensive, 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 expensive. Magic Kingdom's Premier Pass, the most expensive option, does tend to be over $400. If you want a more in-depth look at the basics of Lightning Lane, I have a crash course that I made when the new system was launched that you can check out on the channel, and a frequently asked questions video that will address any of the questions you might have. So lots of options here. Later, I'll share which option gives you the best bang for your buck, and the one that I think is a skip every single time. And there are some common misconceptions about Lightning Lane. It doesn't make you immune to wait times. Even the Lightning Lanes can sometimes get backed up. I waited 19 minutes in a Lightning Lane for Flight of Passage the other day, but the posted wait was 95. But even with that fact, there's a trick to using Lightning Lane that could make it feel like you're immune to lines. Now we're in my garage. Do you notice I'm wearing lightning earrings? Because Lightning Lane. But first, we have to talk about how I saved 9 hours in one day. And this is for real. I actually looked at my last attempt to ride every single ride in Disney World in one day. It was the day that the Premier Pass came out, and I had Premier Pass, Multi-Pass, and Single Pass. I went to all 4 parks, and the only ride I didn't ride in the entire day was Rise of the Resistance. Man, there are still people exiting Rise too. That hurts, dude. Hurts. Now, for the attractions that offered Lightning Lane, I waited a total of 93 minutes. The posted wait times for those attractions summed 620 minutes, which is over 10 hours. I waited only an hour and a half for all of those attractions. Basically, the way I did this was by stacking every single method of Lightning Lane there is. I used Lightning Lane Single Pass for the most popular ride in Animal Kingdom, as well as for Rise of the Resistance, which I didn't end up making it to in time. I used Lightning Lane Multipass for Epcot, and I was able to skip pretty much every line in Epcot with ease using Lightning Lane Multipass. Lightning Lane Premier Pass I purchased for a lot of money for Magic Kingdom, and I was able to skip all of the Lightning Lanes in Magic Kingdom. So, having done this a couple of times now, my mistake was getting Lightning Lane Single Pass for Rise of the Resistance. Interestingly, I could have gotten an additional Single Pass had I not gotten the Rise of the Resistance Lightning Lane. You can only get up to 2 Single Passes a day across all 4 parks. And I'm gonna go ahead and say it, I think that Rise is the one that you might not need as much anymore for two reasons. When I tried to ride every ride in one day, I could have used my Rise Lightning Lane purpose on Guardians. I would have not had to worry about the virtual queue, and I would have been able to skip the virtual queue return queue, which could be very long, and I think I waited over 20 minutes at that point. Also coming to the channel soon, I did attempt again to ride everything in one day. I will not spoil whether I did it or not. You will have to watch to find out. But I bought a single pass for Rise the Resistance for that video as well, and I did not end up using it because I used the single rider line. Now, I cannot recommend the Rise of the Resistance single rider line if you want the full experience, for instance, if you have not ridden it before, because often you do skip at least one of the pre-show experiences. However, if you have ridden Rise of the Resistance before and you're familiar with the pre-shows, the single rider line, I'm not exaggerating, I waited 0 minutes in the single rider line and got to get right on. I went straight into the Stormtrooper room, so I still got all the best parts of the experience. I just skipped the 2 pre-shows. Skipping the single pass purchase for Rise can let you buy single pass for a different single pass attraction in another park, true. It also saves you money. It just might not be worth the spend if you have gotten the full Rise experience before and really just want to experience the meat of the ride again. The one catch with this is that the single rider line isn't always available. However, the Rise the Resistance single pass has been going a little bit slower, and I've seen it available through the end of the day. So you could always head to Hollywood Studios, see if they're testing single rider, and purchase the single pass if they are not testing single rider. Always an option. Rise the Resistance has also had really low wait times in the evening, so even if you did want to ride the ride, I've seen it with 30-minute wait times, 45-minute wait times for pretty much the entire second half of the day because so many people are rushing to it first thing in the morning. But that wasn't my only mistake. On any regular day, I would say that purchasing Lightning Lane Premier Pass is a mistake. I obviously have had to purchase Lightning Lane Premier Pass to try to ride every Disney ride in one day because it makes it so much easier to access Lightning Lanes without doing as much zigzagging. And travel every little bit takes time off of the chance that I'm gonna ride every ride in one day. But for anyone going to Disney World, Lightning Lane Premier Pass is dramatically expensive, and though it is convenient, it's not that much more convenient than just using Lightning Lane Multipass and good strategies and tips like you'll find in this video. Coming up, I'll show you how I walked on to one of the most popular rides in Disney World in just 4 minutes without using any sort of Lightning Lane. You don't want to miss it because you don't always have to pay to skip the line. But I also need to talk about some of the ways Lightning Lane did make a huge difference. Having Lightning Lane Single Pass in Animal Kingdom meant that I could rope drop every ride except Flight of Passage. This got me incredibly short waits on literally every other ride in the park, and then I got to just go skip the line on Flight of Passage. It meant that I was done riding every single ride in Animal Kingdom within just 2 hours. And you could do that on any normal day. It wasn't even that hard. So if all you really care about in Animal Kingdom is the rides and you have Park Hopper, go knock them all out, ride a couple of them twice, and then go get more time with rides in the other parks. Premier Pass in Magic Kingdom is obviously wonderful, but I've also had many, many days where I have tried to ride every single ride in Magic Kingdom without using Lightning Lane, with using Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, no Premier Pass, all sorts of things. And you can get through a lot by doing that. During my no sleep challenge, which was my first real attempt to ride everything in Disney World in one day, I rode every single ride in Magic Kingdom in one day just using Lightning Lane Multi-Pass. It was a lot more steps than Lightning Lane Single Pass, but it really only took me an additional hour or so to do it, and I still didn't wait a super long time for any of the rides. No matter which version of Lightning Lane you purchase, there are a couple of rides where it's very obvious that it will be a game changer. Anything that's offered as a single pass attraction can tend to have very, very long lines, and those are the kind of rides that if you do not buy Lightning Lane for, you're probably going to want to get to them very first thing in the start of the day, during something big like the fireworks that draws a lot of people, or very last thing in the evening. And even then, you might find yourself waiting around an hour. So Lightning Lane can be a major help with those rides, and it's really nice that those are an a la carte option and you can choose just to skip those lines. But Multipass can be really wonderful too, particularly in Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom. Both of these parks have a lot of rides that can get long lines and a lot of rides that can get lines that just feel a little too long for what they are. For instance, Haunted Mansion often has a ride of upwards of an hour because it is such a must-do, and that can be a really nice line to skip because I personally am willing to wait 30 minutes for Haunted Mansion, but maybe not an hour. Clearly, across all 4 parks with Lightning Lanes fully maximized, you can save hours and hours of time. And maybe in a regular park day, you won't save a full 9 hours of time. But we have done a video series testing having lightning lane versus not on exactly the same day with 2 people playing against each other. And you usually save 4 to 6 hours in Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom when you have lightning lane. Now that said, this is saving the time in line. With those timed reservations with lightning lane, you aren't necessarily moving any faster in the park. It's just that the difference might be that you're booking a lightning lane for 1 p.m. that's an hour out instead of getting in line at 12 to be able to ride at 1. And that means you get to do other stuff in that hour instead of just standing in line. Later in the video, I'm going to share my biggest trick for getting more out of my lightning lane reservations. It has worked for me every time, and it's a lot more useful than you might think. I don't know where to go now. Oh, I have to do under the table. Oh, I put the table on my hair. I just feel like I've committed to this bit when I film at home at this point. Oh, my mic's not on. Ow! Now, I have 5 new tips that we have never shared before on the channel that will help you master lightning lane even more than you already have if you've been hanging out with us. But first, we've got to talk about some of the practical strategies and tried and true tips that are the basis for these new ones. Of course, when you're using lightning lane, you want to book your priorities. For the parks except for Animal Kingdom, with lightning lane, you have to book in different tiers. There are the tier 1 attractions, which you can only book 1 of, and the tier 2 attractions are everything else. You can book your other 2 lightning lanes in advance from that bucket. Now, tier 1 attractions, you of course want to go for the highest demand one in that park. In Hollywood Studios, that's going to be Slinky Dog Dash. In Magic Kingdom, it's going to be Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And in Epcot, it's going to be Remy's Ratatouille Adventure or Frozen Ever After. Now, some very popular rides are in the tier 2s too, and they will likely be in your priorities because they are such popular rides. So I highly recommend aiming for Haunted Mansion in Magic Kingdom and Tower of Terror in Hollywood Studios, as those ones tend to go quick. And they are in tier 2. And then, of course, one of the biggest tips that we have is refreshing the app. Refresh it all the time. When you're in the park, you can always just check if there are earlier lightning lanes by refreshing. It's not quite as responsive as it used to be with Genie because it's a lot easier to get good lightning lane times now than it was, but refreshing can still get you a much better lightning lane time or even a lightning lane for a ride that might have been sold out. I have had many days where I have not been able to get Tiana's Bayou Adventure when I purchased lightning lane to be able to get in advance because it's sold out, and then I'm able to get a Tiana's Bayou Adventure lightning lane before 10:30 a.m. just by keeping an eye on it. So refresh that page, keep checking back. You never know what might pop up as people change their plans. And one tip that we revealed in our Sneaky Lightning Lane Secrets video is what we call the Breedlove loophole, because it is a loophole that Breedlove found. So we know that with lightning lanes, there is a 15-minute grace period if you're running late. That means if your lightning lane is from 1 to 2, there's a grace period until 2:15 that you can walk up and still scan your lightning lane. What Breedlove found out is that that grace period is actually much longer than we thought, and it is actually almost 2 hours. So what we found out is that if you scan your lightning lane at any point between 1, when it starts, and 2, obviously you're good. 2 is when your lightning lane expires in the app. From 2 to 4:59, so for another hour and 59 minutes, you will still scan green. We've tested this many times and it has always worked, and it does still work as of January 2025. What's even better about this loophole is you can actually book a new lightning lane as soon as that one expires. So even though you might still plan to use that lightning lane in that 2-hour secret grace period, as soon as it expires at 2, you can go ahead and book a new lightning lane. And that means that yes, there is a way to stack lightning lanes with the new system. There are a couple of restrictions on it. For instance, you do need to be scanned into a park to be able to book a new lightning lane once your first one expires. And to be able to book other tier 1 attractions, you do have to scan your first lightning lane of the day. This is why another tried and true tip that we have is what we're going to call the passkey attraction. The passkey attraction is a ride that you book as early as possible in the day so that when you get to the park, you can scan that lightning lane very early and go ahead and book another tier 1. As soon as you've used your first lightning lane, the tier system goes out the window. You can stop thinking about it. So if you want lightning lanes for both Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, you want to get to the park as early as possible and scan into whatever lightning lane you can. So it's often best to book something like Mad Tea Party right at park open, go and scan it, and then immediately book your next lightning lane for Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. You can even at that point modify your third lightning lane that you got in advance to be a tier 1 if you'd like, but often that's going to be one of those high priority tier 2s like Haunted Mansion. Both of those are kind of advanced strategies. You can see an example of the passkey attraction in my Magic Kingdom Lightning Lane video at the very beginning. I'll show you exactly how to do it. And that is something you'll want to do with Lightning Lane Multipass if you're using it in Magic Kingdom or Hollywood Studios. Now, our 5 new Lightning Lane tips. Number 1, don't settle when it comes to your passkey Lightning Lane. So when you are getting that Lightning Lane that will open up your tier system, your first Lightning Lane of the day, don't necessarily settle for the first one you can find. When I'm booking Lightning Lanes in advance, I tend to go for my highest demand tier 1, my highest demand tier 2, and then the lowest demand ride in the park so that I have that passkey. This is not always the right call. You definitely want your passkey attraction to be within the first hour that you plan to be in the park so that you can scan it as early as possible and start booking other tier 1s. However, don't settle for the lowest demand attraction in the park just because it's the easiest. For my upcoming Every Ride in Disney World challenge, I originally was able to book Star Tours as my passkey attraction. However, after checking back a couple of days in advance of heading to the park, I saw that Tower of Terror had a Lightning Lane available as early as 10 a.m. with the park opening at 9. That is a pretty good passkey because Tower of Terror is a tier 2, but I could still knock out one of my highest demand rides very early and open up my tier system instead of using a Lightning Lane on a ride that I don't really need to skip the line for, like Star Tours or Mad Tea Party. The trick with this is to keep checking back. So if you can, make your passkey attraction a ride that you would want to use Lightning Lane for. It's more possible than you think, particularly if you have the advantage of booking 7 days in advance with a Disney World hotel reservation. Which brings me to tip 2. The day that you're using Lightning Lane is not the only day that you should be checking back for better times. After you've booked your Lightning Lane in advance and lock them in for your trip, I recommend not letting them leave your brain completely. Keep checking back at what the Lightning Lane times look like for the day that you have it booked. You might see something pop up that wasn't there when you initially booked, or you might change your mind about what you want your day to look like. This is how I found that 10 a.m. Tower of Terror. Initially, it was showing up as 12 p.m. and later, and then someone with a 10 a.m. canceled and I was able to grab it. But I never would have known that had I not been randomly sort of checking as I thought about it with the days leading up to my park day. And I'm not saying be like a hawk, because not that much is going to change in advance, but maybe every day or so, just pull it up and see if there's something a little more optimal for your day. New tip number 3, book a new Lightning Lane the minute your Lightning Lane expires, even if you're running late and still plan to use it. This is especially true if you are utilizing the Breedlove loophole. So if that Lightning Lane expires at 2, at 2:01, you are able to book a new Lightning Lane, even if you plan to go back and ride that ride in that 2-hour secret grace window. So this is something that actually happened to me with my upcoming Every Ride in Disney World attempt. I had a Lightning Lane for Toy Story Mania. We'll say it was from 4:30 to 5:30. At 5:30, I wasn't even on my way to Toy Story Mania yet. But at 5:31, I went ahead and booked a Lightning Lane for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway for later in the night. Then I made my way over to Toy Story Mania. I was more than 15 minutes late, so more than the true grace period. I was in the secret grace window. My Lightning Lane scanned green, so I still was able to use my Toy Story Mania Lightning Lane despite having booked a new one. And later, I got to ride Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. So even if you're running late, still book a Lightning Lane the minute one expires, because that could mean getting to a lot more Lightning Lanes than you were going to initially. Tip number 4, Lightning Lane works a little bit better during slower times of the year. Now, you might think that you don't need Lightning Lane during slower times of the year, and you never need Lightning Lane. There are plenty of incredible park strategies that can get you on all of your priorities, even with the busiest crowds, as long as you're willing to get up early and stay late. However, Lightning Lane is a little less useful on the slower times of year because there are shorter lines. But that said, in Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom, even in the slowest time of the year, you're still going to see multiple attractions at above an hour wait for much of the day, and some of them might even go up to 95 plus. It can certainly still be useful to have Lightning Lane. The 9 hours I saved was during what was considered a slower time of the year. But honestly, I would rather use Lightning Lane during a slower time of the year than during a busier time of the year. And that's because Lightning Lane works a whole lot better during slower times of the year because fewer people buy it. So more Lightning Lanes are available during the day. You can be a little bit more flexible, have a little bit more of a, oh, what if we rode this right now? And then go and book it in the app and it's actually available. It's something that really only happens in the slowest points of the year. So I'm talking about January, February, September, late August when the kids go back to school, and that little lull right between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And my 5th new tip is that in most cases, single rider is actually better than using a Lightning Lane. For one, it's free. So if you're willing and able to split up your party, there are a few rides in Disney World that single rider can save you more time than a Lightning Lane would. I walked onto Rise of the Resistance without using a single pass using their single rider. I regularly walk onto Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run without spending a Lightning Lane reservation to get on it. Test Track is another one that has an excellent single rider line when it reopens and a great way to not waste one of your Lightning Lane reservations. And Expedition Everest's single rider line is also incredible so that you wouldn't have to waste a Lightning Lane reservation there. All of those are going to get you on the ride very quickly. The only catch is with the Rise of the Resistance one, you do skip a couple of the pre-shows, so I don't recommend doing it for your first time riding the ride. There is one exception to this tip, and that is with Rock and Roller Coaster, where the single rider line does not move as quickly as those other ones. But if you're not using that Lightning Lane on Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, you could use it on Rock and Roller Coaster and not have to deal with the single rider there. It's basically another example of having good strategy to couple with buying Lightning Lane to really maximize your day. And again, you do not need Lightning Lane. If you want plenty of strategies to help you get by without paying to skip any lines in Disney World, check out my recent Perfect Week series. I didn't buy Lightning Lane for that entire week and had the perfect week in Disney World without any skipping the line at all. Should I get under this table? Ow. We should build a fort. Wouldn't that be fun? Okay. Oh, am I recording? I hope not. But Lightning Lane can certainly be worth the spend. For families with kiddos that get antsy in longer lines, Lightning Lane can be a total lifesaver. And if you're visiting during the holidays, you might not get the most out of it, but the little that you do get out of it could be worth it with how wild the crowds are. But sometimes it's just not worth the spend. The biggest factor is what your priorities are. If you're okay with waiting in a couple hour-long lines, odds are you're going to be able to get through everything you want to most days of the year. I personally don't ever buy Lightning Lane, even when I'm traveling with my friends from out of town and they have a lot of must-dos, just because the AllEars strategy is solid and I can use it with them too. So I like to save the spend on Lightning Lane and instead have more money for souvenirs and snacks with my friends and family. With the right strategy, you can get everything done you want to in the parks. And with the right strategy, Lightning Lane can make you feel like a VIP in the parks. So it's really up to how you want to vacation. I hope these new tips are helpful. If you have any questions about Lightning Lane, as always, drop them in the comments. I am happy to help you with any questions you might have. And if you have any tips that I haven't hit on, go ahead and drop them in the comments too. You never know who you might help. If you like this video, go ahead and like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.